Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're diving into a really wild story, a real plot twist, you could say. It all went down in space, up on the International Space Station with NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. And you might remember back in June 2024, June 5th to be precise, big day, big launch. Boeing was testing out their new Starliner spacecraft. It was supposed to be a quick 8-day test flight in and out, just to see if the spacecraft, had what it takes.
Absolutely. It was meant to be, a pretty quick test run. But yeah, things took a bit of a turn, as you mentioned. So today we're going to really dig into, how that quick trip turned into an unexpected extended stay and, what kind of significant lessons we can pull from this unique situation. I bet a lot of people out there wondering how this routine mission went so off the rails and what it tells us about space travel as a whole, the reality of it.
Right, exactly. So let's get into this unexpected, extended vacation, you could call it. Okay, so Starliner docks with the ISS. Everything seems to be going smoothly, at least for the initial phase of the test flight. Mm-hmm. But then almost right after docking, boom, a problem pops up. Mm-hmm. So what exactly happened with the Starliner? What was preventing Butch and Suni from just hopping back in and heading back home?
Well, it's really interesting. See, right after they docked, the engineers on the ground, they detected something unusual, an anomaly, they call it, in the Starliner's propulsion system. Yeah. Basically, there was an issue with some of the thrusters. Those are the things that allow for those really precise maneuvers, essential for coming back home.
Right.
And it wasn't a small problem either. It was serious enough that they couldn't guarantee a safe, controlled return to Earth at that time. So they had to go back and reassess the whole mission plan.
And NASA, they've always been big on safety, right? Safety first. I remember NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, he came out and said, I think it was something like, spaceflight is inherently risky, even the most carefully planned missions. You can never eliminate all the risk. And this decision to keep Butch and Suni up on the ISS while that Starliner came back down, on its own, really shows just how committed we are to safety. He said, it's our core principle, our guiding star. Powerful words, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just underlined, the most important thing in space exploration, it's a really unforgiving environment up there, And any little deviation from what's expected, especially in crucial systems like propulsion, you have to be incredibly cautious. Sending that Starliner back without a crew allowed the teams on the ground to really study the problem without putting Wilmore and Williams at any unnecessary risk,
Right. Okay. So imagine this. You're all prepped mentally, physically for an 8-day mission, a relatively short stint in space. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, bam, you're looking at 9 months. That's a big adjustment, to say the least.
Yeah.
So how did Butch and Suni, how did they even begin to wrap their heads around that? And, what did daily life on the ISS even look like for them during this unplanned long-term stay?
Well, it really shows you how adaptable astronauts are. They had to completely shift their mindset. They went from being short-term visitors to long-duration crew members.
Right.
And what's amazing is how smoothly they transitioned into the research programs that were already going on up there on the ISS. They didn't just sit around waiting, They actively participated in a whole bunch of experiments, really important stuff.
That's right. They didn't just float around waiting to be rescued. I was reading about some of the research they were doing, some pretty cutting-edge stuff. They were growing plants in space.
Yeah.
That's not science fiction anymore. Yep. That could be how we, feed astronauts on really long missions, like if we ever send people to Mars.
Yeah, exactly. They were working with these plant growth chambers, and they collected a lot of data about how different plants do in that microgravity environment, And it's all crucial for developing life support systems for those long duration missions you were talking about.
Right. And it wasn't just space gardening. They were also, they were constantly exposed to cosmic radiation up there.
Right.
And I know they were also doing research on that. That sounds pretty crucial, for understanding the long-term health risks of space travel in general.
Oh, absolutely. When you're outside of Earth's protective magnetic field, you're exposed to a lot more radiation. And the time that Butch and Suni spent on the ISS gave researchers really valuable data about how that radiation affects the human body over time.
Makes sense.
This is really fundamental stuff if we're going to send people on missions that go way beyond our planet's natural shield, deeper into space.
Okay, so space gardening, radiation research, they even did spacewalks.
They did.
Not your typical Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
What was the point of those spacewalks? What were they actually doing out there?
Well, those spacewalks were mainly focused on upgrading and maintaining the International Space Station's power system.
Gotcha.
The ISS relies on its solar arrays for power, so keeping those things running at peak performance is super important.
Right.
Butch and Suni were out there installing new parts, making repairs, and that work is really going to help extend the life of the station and make sure it can continue to support all that research.
Yeah.
So yeah, what started as this unexpected situation ended up leading to some really significant contributions, both scientifically and operationally.
I mean, to go from thinking you're spending a week in space to 9 months in that confined environment, facing all the physical challenges of being in microgravity, that must take incredible mental fortitude. What are some of those challenges that astronauts have to deal with on these long-duration missions?
Well, physically, the human body goes through a lot of changes in microgravity. Muscles start to atrophy because you're not using them as much to support your weight. Bone density decreases.
Wow.
And to combat these effects, astronauts have to exercise, religiously.
Really?
Yeah, every day. But there's a psychological side to it, too. I mean, being away from family and friends, all the comforts of Earth for that long, it can be really tough emotionally. The isolation, the confinement, even just how your senses work differently in space, it all adds up.
Right.
And then, of course, you have to manage all your resources really carefully. Food, water, hygiene, supplies, everything. It all becomes more crucial on those long missions.
It sounds like it takes a truly remarkable level of, professionalism and adaptability. I mean, they had to keep performing at their best, stay positive, even though they didn't know for sure when they were coming on.
You got it. And their ability to not just cope, but to keep doing those really complex tasks, at a high level, even with all the uncertainty, it's a testament to the training they go through, the selection process.
Yeah.
They're trained for all kinds of crazy situations. And the way they perform during this extended mission, well, it just proves that.
So after all those months orbiting Earth, they finally got to come home. March 16th, 2025, they left on a SpaceX Crew 9 mission.
Yep.
It's interesting. It wasn't even the Starliner that brought them back, was it?
No, it wasn't. Because of that propulsion issue with the Starliner, they decided to use the SpaceX Crew Dragon that was already scheduled to go up. So Butch and Suni came back with NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. It really shows you how everyone in the space program, all the different countries and companies, can work together to make sure the crew is safe.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that return trip, 17 hours coming back down to Earth, finally splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico, near Tallahassee, Florida, March 18th, 2025. I mean, what must have been going through their minds as they were coming in for that landing?
Oh, I can only imagine. After 9 months of weightlessness, suddenly feeling gravity again, and all those familiar sounds and smells of Earth coming back, the feeling of air on their skin, seeing the recovery teams being back on solid ground, hearing people cheering for them. It must have been such an intense experience, emotionally overwhelming to come back home after so long in space.
And that splashdown, that wasn't the end of the story, was it? I mean, they had to go through a whole process of recovery and readjustment to being back on Earth.
Oh, absolutely. Right after they returned, they had to undergo a ton of medical tests to check their physical condition after spending so much time in space. And then they started a rehabilitation program designed to help their bodies get used to Earth gravity again. They had to rebuild muscle, get their bone density back up. And this whole recovery process, it's not just important for their own health, but it also provides NASA with a ton of data for their human research program.
And how does their 9-month mission, how does it help us prepare for those future missions? The really ambitious ones like going to Mars.
Well, their time on the ISS gave us so much data about the long-term effects of microgravity, the effects of cosmic radiation on the human body over an extended period. And this information is absolutely essential for planning those missions to the Moon and Mars, missions that are going to last much longer. We need to know how the human body adapts and how it might not adapt to those conditions to make sure those future explorers are safe and healthy and able to perform their duties. It's like a real-life, long-term study, something you just can't get from shorter missions.
I love that idea, that they're like these incredibly resilient living laboratories.
Right.
It's amazing. I remember reading that Butch and Suni talked about their experience, their thoughts on this whole extended mission. What were some of the things they said?
They were both really grateful for the opportunity and really proud of the work they did, even though it wasn't what they expected. They talked about the challenges, but they also emphasized how rewarding it was to be involved in all that research, to be pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space.
Yeah.
Their perspective gives us such valuable insight into what it's actually like to live in space for that long. It adds a human dimension to all the scientific data.
So zooming out a bit, what's the big takeaway from this whole thing, this 9-month mission? It's clearly more than just a delayed flight, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really highlights the incredible teamwork and resilience of everyone involved in space exploration all around the world.
Yeah.
NASA, Boeing, SpaceX, all the international partners on the ISS. They all came together to handle this unexpected situation, always putting the astronauts' safety first and making sure they could still do meaningful scientific work while they were up there. It's a beautiful example of how we can collaborate and achieve amazing things in space.
And all those challenges they faced, all the problems they had to solve, those are all lessons learned, right? In real time, on this grand, incredibly complex stage.
Absolutely. Every hurdle, every adaptation they had to make teaches us something valuable for the future of space exploration. It shows how important it is to be flexible, to work together seamlessly, and to never compromise on safety, especially in such a challenging environment. This experience adds to our knowledge of what it takes to not just visit space, but to live there, to work there for extended periods. And that knowledge is paving the way for missions to the moon, to Mars, to deeper and deeper into space.
So, to sum it all up, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams' unexpectedly long mission showed us the amazing adaptability of the human spirit.
Right.
It highlighted the critical importance of safety in space travel.
Absolutely.
And it showed us how we can keep pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge even when things don't go according to plan.
Perfectly said. It really captures the dynamic, often unpredictable nature of space exploration and the unwavering dedication of everyone involved.
So thinking about this whole story, thinking about everything that happened, what do you think is the biggest challenge we still need to overcome to make long-duration space travel, like a trip to Mars, a reality? I mean, think about all the scientific, technological, and human factors involved. It's a big question, something to really ponder. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive into this really unexpected chapter in space exploration.
It was my pleasure.
And until next time, keep looking up.